I was right all along. If you guys remember, when I went down to the Bahamas in November, right after Thanksgiving of 2022, I told you guys even then that I knew and had information that SBF, his dad, his mom, and his brother were all working together on this political donation scheme. And people laughed me out the building. Guess what? I was right. The story has broke today with FTX. At some point, you would think people would actually start understanding that I'm honest, and when I tell you guys things from the inside, it's real. They're actually happening. I have sources. I'm involved in a lot of these stories. I've got contacts. I talk to so many people about Joe Bankman and Barbara Fried, both of them, and how, also Gabriel, how they were involved in political donations. It is busted today. They were, in fact, involved in a $100 million political donation scheme. And the entire thing centers around Joe Bankman. I told you guys the entire time he was behind it. Now, what I've come to learn, and I've known this for a long time now at this point, but in the beginning, what eventually made sense is that Joe Bankman was in charge of all the political donations and the philanthropy. And I knew this. I had talked to someone who actually met with him about it, had a pet. It was a pet charity. And I spoke with her actually right when I got back from the Bahamas the first time at Decentral. And she told me a story about how she had met with Joe Bankman for a series of interviews and how it was very clear that for whatever reason he wasn't interested in her pet charity. At the end, after a bunch of meetings, they ended up saying, no, we're not going to do that. Why? Why did he say that? Well, now we know, and we've known for a long time, because basically the only thing that these guys were donating to was the Pandemic Prevention Fund. Gabriel, Sam's brother, had a lot to do with this as well. Now, Barbara, what she did is she just kind of funneled money wherever she wanted to based on her political leanings. She supported candidates maybe, or maybe, ideas or whatever, the academia, liberal ideas a lot of people would kind of think about. But the fact is that Joe was in charge of the philanthropy. Sam was in charge of the trading and the day-to-day operations of the exchange. Once the money went to the philanthropy arm, it was gone and was out of Sam's hands, right? And of course, I don't know if you guys know this, but the Pandemic Prevention Fund that we were referring to a few moments ago, I meant to say this, what was it? Well, it was actually just simply a way for the Fried family to funnel political donations into certain candidates that they wanted to see win. And that was basically what it was all about. It wasn't about pandemic prevention. It was candidates who probably supported not having a pandemic and being extra prepared, right? Okay. So we've got that going on. This is called, they did this in what's called, I think what's called like a straw man something. It wasn't a straw man argument. It was a straw man fraud or a straw man donation fraud or something like that, where basically what they did is they hid all of these different donations in tons of different people's names in order to get around contribution limits and other restrictions. And then on top of that, of course, they also were using a lot of other mechanisms that they should not have been using to get money to all of the candidates that they wanted to support. And it was a fraudulent scheme the entire time. And I can't remember exactly what constitutes that straw man, the term I was speaking about earlier, but it basically just has to do with funneling money, including to Republicans, by the way. They did donate some money to Republicans for some of these entities. I think Ryan Salame's name was one they used a good bit maybe for that. And it was basically a way to make it look like that FTX was giving money to both sides with their public donations, right? Because, as Sam said himself, oh, the media kills you when you donate to Republicans. But to influence politics, as we've told you, there's no such thing as real Republicans and Democrats. There's no Republican Party and Democratic Party. That's all false. That's all fake. What matters is the public sentiment at the time is driven by the both children, family, and narratives and media and the WF and the Atlantic Council and CFR and all this stuff, right? So the point is, to get things done, you have to bribe both parties. That's the way you have to do it. You have to pay off both parties. So, and keep this in mind, SBF was meeting with Gary Gensler, okay? And I told you guys that these exchanges and all these entities are in on it, right? Joseph Lubin, all these guys, they're in on it with the SEC. I don't want to think Brad Garlinghouse is, but he probably is. He probably is. I still like him. I don't care if he's in on it or not. So the point is that buying political influence, buying political powers, and I would tell you, you need to go check out my book, Catching Up to FTX. It's a long story because of all the stuff that happened with my company. The launch kind of got, kind of pushed to the side. But it's a really good book that explains a lot of this. I talk about this in the book, about how Joe and Barbara are big players in this. And a lot of other things I said in the book have turned out to be correct that people doubted. And it also details my story of going down to the Bahamas and chasing Sam Bankman-Fried, as a lot of you guys know that I did. And I've got text messages with him. We're going to do another video on this, by the way, tomorrow, where we're going to actually show you the evidence. We're going to show you all the things that happened. We're going to show you in the book where I talk about this. We're going to show you where I discuss this on numerous videos and numerous live streams. I'm going to show you messages on Signal, literally between Sam Bankman-Fried and myself, where I'm telling him, I know your parents are involved. This is before anybody was saying it. It was just so obvious when you started to look at it. Sam couldn't have been pulling the strings on this entire thing. And so we've got all the receipts. I've talked about this forever. So you need to go check out the book. We got a link down below, because it's going to educate you on the reality of what happened down there in the Bahamas. And there's other stuff that I talked about that's still going to play out at some point, okay? Now, where is this going to lead to for Sam and interested parties? Well, most likely, Sam's dad now is probably going to end up facing charges. Joe Bankman is going to end up in court. And a lot of people said, oh, well, it's not going to happen. They also said Sam wasn't going to go to jail. They said, Sam, he bought out the political system. No, he didn't. He didn't buy off the political system. How could he? He doesn't have any money. He lost it all, remember? The quickest way to go from zero to a billionaire is through crypto. The quickest way to go from billionaire to zero is to be a fraud, is to be fraudulent and not actually have all that money, because you're just lying on ledgers about how much money you have, because you're controlling numbers. And I think it's going to eventually come out that Sam and FTX were the reason why the market collapsed. Not at the bottom, from the top, from the very top, or the previous very top, the 2021 top in November. I think that's eventually going to come out. There's eventually going to be stuff come about Sam and FTX and money laundering in Ukraine. That stuff's going to come out down the road. I've tried to tell you all this stuff is real. And to remember, somehow these people accused me of promoting FTX and just undisclosed ads and stuff. I never promoted FTX. I said it from the very beginning. And I got sued for $1 billion, and I was completely dropped from the lawsuit voluntarily, which means they knew they messed up and they removed me. I didn't have to pay a dime. I had to pay my lawyers to get me to that point. I didn't have to pay a dime, nothing, because I didn't do anything wrong. I was never with FTX. TJ tried to get us with FTX. And I think when you think about what happened with TJ and Hit Network and the absolute conspiracy, I hope people are going to understand. I have my gag order lifted. I can say whatever I want about that situation. And what I want to tell you guys is I want you guys to think about this. We are now almost a full year later, and you guys see now that I'm in a much better place mentally, and I'm not like PTSD right now from what happened and all this stuff, and I'm very sane and I'm very level, and I hope you guys see this. And the point is, I never said a single thing that was an exaggeration or not the truth about what occurred. They did try to have me killed. They had me swatted. I think TJ was considering killing me. He was asking me to go out to the woods the weekend all this happened. These people are bad people. They're thieves. And here's the important part. These people, probably about 7 to 10 core people over there at Hit Network that were involved in the scam, including like Brian Emery, Justin Williams, Tim Shedd, Allison Fibash, Ali Bevan, people like this. I think Carlos Diaz, obviously. I left some people out. But the point is there were these core people, and then what happened, they were involved in bribing and money and stealing and all this stuff. What occurred, TJ had been stealing from me for years, and he got caught because I fired him. I fired his dad, who was the CFO, and Justin Williams, and they knew I was going to bring someone in. And we were going to find how much money they stole. That's what this entire thing has been about the entire time. They threatened my life. Carl was telling me he was going to kill me. Told my ex-wife that. All this stuff. That was all real, 100%. Everything I said on that crazy live stream where I got arrested, 100% of it was real. I didn't say one thing that was not true. But what happened is TJ is so manipulative and brainwashes people so much. He convinced all the people there that anything or any beef they ever had with me was actually gigantic. He either did it by sending them money or by brainwashing and manipulating them. And people absolutely believed, and there are still people I believe that have been involved with this, that think he's telling the truth, that think I'm crazy, and TJ's been honest the entire time, and he never actually stole from me. Hey, come on, guys. That's not true. TJ is a thief. We have all the evidence. You guys are going to be blown away on July 17th when we have our hearing. The point is this. Barbara Fried and Joe Bankman went to Sam's hearing, and I stood right next to them. And I spoke to someone who was actually getting ready to interview Barbara. And this is a very smart person. This is someone I know, someone who I've been involved with in some production with. Somebody I really, really like. And he told me something very interesting. He said, look at him over there. She's telling me they didn't know anything about this. They didn't know anything. The best frauds are the ones that are able to get people to believe the exact opposite of reality. And how did they do it? How did TJ do it? How did TJ do it? The same way that Barbara and Joe did it, through emotions. They showed up to court and they looked so sad. They looked so sad. They looked like they had somebody had stolen their puppies, almost putting their son into prison, and they looked so pitiful and humble and nice. They looked like your grandparents. They looked like your grandparents that they're not the lovey, hold you type of grandparents, okay? But they are the type that just, have been through a lot in their life, and, they're quiet, but, they have feelings and they have emotions, and, they want to get your Christmas presents and pawn them so they can give political donations. No, that's just these people. But the point is they put off a totally different vibe than reality. And when the best frauds are able to do that, they convince the masses, and that's how they're able to brainwash. I would talk to someone who worked at Hit Network, and they would say that, I would be telling them all this stuff, and they would go and they would talk to TJ, and they just could not believe what I'm saying, because TJ in those meetings would cry. He would tear up. So emotional. He's so emotional. Go find, see if you can find the hostage video, or go watch the Altcoin Daily interview. This man doesn't have emotions. He doesn't. He's a sociopath. Similarly to how Sam Bankman-Fried, his parents, Joe and Barbara, are also sociopaths. That's how they're able to lie and convince through manipulation. And I told the guy when I was at the hearing, I said, yeah, I don't think that's true. I think they do know. I think they're involved. And I stood right next to them in line. And when I stood there, Cassie and I just sat there and I thought to myself, you know what? Maybe I'm wrong. These people do seem kind of pitiful. That's how good they are. Now we have the truth. And the truth is what I told you the entire time. They're frauds, they're scammers, they're crooks, they're liars, they're sociopaths. Am I talking about Sam Bankman-Fried's parents? Am I talking about Hit Network and TJ and Justin Williams and Allison Fivax, Carlos Diaz, Brian Emery, Bo Mason of Blueprint Homes, Tim Shedd, Sr., TJ's dad? Because it fits in both cases. And in both cases, I want everybody to understand this. In both cases, not just the one today, I'm going to be proven correct. And all of the people that were tricked into this other narrative, they're going to feel the same way all of the people who thought Joe and Barbara were just sweet people are going to feel. You're going to be shocked. You're going to absolutely be shocked. And I hope it's sooner rather than later, but I can't tell you when it's going to be. I'm not going to tell you. I know we have a hearing on July 17th. I don't know if it's going to happen then. I don't know if it's going to happen before that. I don't know if it's going to happen after that. I'm not going to sit here and tell you when it's going to happen, when my vindication is going to come, and when people are going to be able to no longer deny the truth. As today, no one can deny the truth about what happened at FTX. All right, guys. That's all I got. Be blessed.